Hello grade 8, how are you today? In this video we are going to solve a worksheet about the square roots اللي هو كان our previous lesson اللي هو this lesson. قلنا إنه square root النوتيشن تبعه هي radical and whose inside the square root is called the radicand. So this is called the radical and whose inside is called the radicand. كان في عنا two formulas. Square root of a square أو radical a square is equal to a, where a is being positive number or 0, and radical a all of its square is equal also to a. أخذنا examples. Radical 5 square is equal to 5, radical 11 square is equal to 11, and so on. Radical 3 all of its square is equal to 3, radical 7 all of its square is equal to 7. أخذنا إنه الديفرنس بين radical 11 سكوير لما يكون سكوير بس على 11 وشو يعني radical 11 all of its square أو radical 7 all of its square بيكون في عندي brackets والسكوير بيكون outside. We took also that radical minus 5, radical minus 9, radical minus 100, radical negative any number does not exist, but when the negative sign is outside the radical it's okay. The negative radical 5 square is equal to negative 5 لأنه radical 5 square is equal to 5 والنيجاتيف خليها outside. And we said also that square and square root are opposite operations. يعني مثلا هيدي 3 لما نعملها square بتصير 9. شايفين هيدي اللي بالجرين to the right لما نعملها square بتصير 9 بس 9 لما نعملها radical بتصير 3. okay. واخذنا الديفرنس بين square و square root. okay. Square هو when you make a square to a number to get another one. مثل 3 squared صارت 9, مثل 4 squared صارت 16, and so on. The green table here. And the square root okay برجعني على الروot. يعني مثلا radical 9, what's the number that I make it square to get 9, the positive number? It is 3. So 3 is the square root of it. okay. هودي كلهم أخذناهم last time. وأخذنا some notations أو some rules here. A times radical b equal a radical b, radical a times radical b equal radical a times b, radical a times radical a equal radical a square which is equal a, and radical a over b equal radical a over b. يعني بنحط الراديكال والراديكال بنحطهم تحت راديكال واحد. okay. يلا now let's start solving by what? By exercises. okay. So in question number 1 in your worksheet okay اللي هو complete the table. عندكم a squared and radical a squared. okay. So we'll complete the table of this. خلينا نبتدي أو نبلش بنمبر 7. 7 squared اللي هو equal 49. okay. 7 squared is equal 49, and radical a squared يعني radical 49 it's equal to 7. okay. Negative 3, when you make it square it will be 9, and radical 9 is equal to 3. okay. And of course we couldn't make radical negative 3 squared like this بعدين تطلع 3. it's wrong. أو negative 3. okay. just write radical 9 equal to 3. okay. yeah. Radical 11. Radical 11 when you make it square, we took it before that radical 11 all of its squared كلها squared it's equal to 11. check. هيدي rule أخذناها. okay. خلينا نكتب الrules here. Radical a squared is equal to a with a positive or 0, and radical a all of its square is equal also a with a also positive or 0. okay. For this reason I told you here to write, if you write it radical negative 3 all of its square it couldn't be negative 3. سما حدا يقول لي انه radical a square equal to a. okay. فنحن بنعمل negative 3 square بتصير 9, والراديكال 9 بتصير 3. يعني دايما الانسر of radical لازم يطلع positive unless if you have negative outside here, so it's okay. So let me go back to radical 11, all of the square is equal to 11. Okay, and here radical a square, يعني radical of this number, radical 11, so I keep it radical 11. Okay, negative 6. When you make negative 6 square شو راح تصير 36. And when you make radical 36, 36 is a perfect square, so it is 6. Done. That's it. Okay. But هون radical 11 is not a perfect square. يعني هي مش موجودة بالتيبل اللي شفناه قبل شوي. طيب a square is 100. هون معطيني ال a square. This is a square. Okay. طيب radical a square يعني radical 100 which is equal to 10. Okay. And how could I find a? طيب هيدي a square. طيب in order to find a شو لازم تعمل؟ square root. Okay. So what is the square root of 100? It is 10. لاحظ معي 10 square is 100, radical 100 is 10. Okay. طيب radical 2 a square يعني radical 2 all of square شو بتصير 2. And radical a squared يعني radical 2, so we keep it radical 2. Why? Since 2 is not a perfect square. 144. Okay, this is a square. هاي طيب هون بدي اكتب انا radical a squared يعني radical this. So radical 144 is equal to 12. 144 is a perfect square. Its square root is 12. This is 144. So what's the value of a? This is a squared. So what's the value of a? شايفين احنا شو عم نعمل؟ عم نعمل بالعكس. يعني here I have radical 2. I make it square to get this. Here I make it square. هون قصدي I make it square to get this. Here I make it square to get this. هون I make it square to get 9. هون I make it square. But when you want to find the opposite, okay, you must do square root. So when you do square root of 144, it is 12. Okay, so let me write here square root. Okay, I think it's clear now, so let me erase these arrows here and let's continue with exercise number 2. I hope the ideas are very clear. Yeah, complete the expressions. Is the square root of 49? What's the square root of 49? 7. The square of 10 is 10 square, which is 100. Is the square root of negative 6? But, sorry, is the square of negative 6. Like, what's the square of negative 6? يعني if you make negative 6 square, شو بتصير? 36. Is the square root of 7? Square root of 7. Like, 7 is not a perfect square, so you just write radical 7. Is the square root of 25? What's the square root of 25? 5. يعني radical 25, so it's equal to 5. 9 is the square root of what? 9 is the square root of what? Okay, if you memorize the table of squares and square roots, I will just memorize the table of squares. Okay, I know that 9 times 9 is 81. Okay, so the square root of 81 is 9. So 9 is the square root of 81. Okay, radical 13 is the square root of what? Okay, radical 13 is the square root of what? طيب خلينا نرجع على 9 to explain it more. 9 is the square root of what? Okay, if you want to solve it in a يعني هيك in a way بدل ما نحن نكون حافظين. Okay, 9 is the square root of what? Okay, يعني radical what gives 9 هيك يعني. Okay, يعني radical a gives 9, so what's the value of a? It's like that. Okay, طيب. And I know already that 81 is the square of 9, so 9 is the square root of 81. Right. Radical 13 is the square root of what? So if I want to solve it here, I write radical what gives radical 13. Okay, radical what gives radical 13. Now if you want to solve it in a different way, okay, if you want to solve it in a different way, هلا مش different way, هي هيدي الواي اللي نحن بدنا نحل فيها. But just to explain what are we doing here, we are finding a number such that its square root is radical 13. So what should you do to find it? هرجع على 9 to explain it more. 9 is the square root of 81. Okay, هلا هو كان عم يسألني of what؟ لحتى أنا جبت 81 عملت 9 times 9. Same here. Radical 13 is the square root of what? Okay, so in order to find this number, I should do radical 13 squared. Radical 13 squared is equal to what? 13. So radical 13 is the square root of 13. Okay, I explained it in different ways just to understand it more. Okay, same here. Same here. I'm comparing this لأنه الidea شوي جديدة يمكن maybe. Okay, so I think it's clear, but just to يعني حتى أكون مطمن أكتر. 9 is the square root of 8 of what? 9 times 9 gives 81. So 9 is the square root of 81. Radical 13 is the square root of what? It's the square root of 13. Radical 15 is the square root of 15. It's like that. Okay? طيب. Is the square root, what is the square root of 5? There is a number. It is the square root of 5. So it's radical 5. Very clear, yeah. Very clear. Okay? So I think now it is clear. Let me go to the next page. Yeah, here simplify. So I'll start by the first one. Radical negative 5 squared. So radical negative 5, all of its square is equal to what? Is it equal to negative 5? No. I already know that. Let me write the rules again. Radical a squared equal a. With a must be positive or 0. Okay? And radical a, all of its square is equal to a. Okay? Only just to to remember them. هودي مكتوبين معكم. طيب radical negative 5 all of its square. Is it equal negative 5? No, it's not equal negative 5. We only apply this formula when a is positive. So what should I do here? طب ما انت معطيني اياه هيك teacher. So what should I do? So you'll do it like this. Radical negative 5 squared equal radical negative 5 squared is equal to 25, right? And I already know that radical 25 is equal to 5. So it's equal 5 and not negative 5. So this is the answer. Right. Negative radical 4, what does it equal? Like negative radical 4. The negative outside doesn't affect, so I keep it. What does radical 4 equal? What does radical 4 equal? It's equal to 2. so I keep it 2. So it's negative 2. It's like this. Yeah. Radical 5, all of it squared equal. Radical 5, all of it squared. Follow this rule. So it's equal 5. Easy. Negative radical 10 squared. Okay. So look at this. Radical 10 squared. It's same as radical a squared. So it's equal to what? Equal to a. So I keep the negative outside. 10 is the a, so 10 only. I hope it's clear. Radical 400. What does radical 400 equal? Sorry, 400. Radical 400 time. What's the number that you make it square to get 400? Think about it. Maybe it's not listed in the table, but think about radical 400 type. I know that 2 times 2 is 4. Check. And I already know that. But maybe some of you, 20 times 20, like multiply 20 times 20, David said 400. So 20 squared is 400. So radical 400 is 20. Try 20 times 20, it's 400. Check. Right. Radical 0.04. Again. Radical 0.04. Right. I already know that 0.2 times 0.2, 0.2 times 0.2, it's equal to what? It's equal to 0.04. Check. You may use your calculator to check. So radical 0.04, it's equal to radical 0.2 squared. And 0.2 squared is equal to what? 0.2. Okay? Also, we may write this in the same way. So we may write it radical 20 squared, which is equal 20. Okay. Yeah. Let me do here by blue. يلا شوي وراح نخلص. خلصنا. Radical 810. Radical 810. طيب. Not 810, sorry, 8100. So it's radical 8100. طيب. I know that 9 times 9 is 81. So 90 times 90 is 8100. So it's radical 90 squared. And it's equal to what? Equal to 90. Clear? Type radical 1 over 100. Radical 1 over 100. So I will use the formula that I used before اللي هي كانوا يعني آخر سلايد باللسن اللي هن 3 rules. Big radical for 1 over 100 it's equal radical 1 over radical 100. Okay? Revise the lesson. Radical A over radical B equal radical big radical A over B. It's the same. هيدي الفورمولا استعملناها here. So radical 1 over 100 is equal to radical 1 over radical 100. طيب. Radical 1 I already know that it's 1. من وين أنا عم بعرف؟ من اللسن. Okay? إذا أنت ناسي الفورمولا you must write them on a paper أو على الكوبي بوك تبعك على النوتس كوبي بوك. اكتب النوتس كلهم. Radical 1 is equal to 1. Radical 100 is equal to 10. So it's 1 over 10 and fine. Okay? We go to the next one. Negative radical 6400. What does it equal? It's equal negative. خلي النيجاتيف outside زي ما عملنا here. Radical 6400. 6400 64 is 8 times 8, so it's radical 80 square. ليه؟ لأنه 80 times 80 is 6400, so it's negative 80. In the last question, I kept it here. Radical 3 power 4 times radical 7 cube. It's somehow hard, but just I put here to know if there is anybody can solve it in the class. Okay, so زي تحدي يعني. So let me solve it. Radical 3 power 4 times radical 7 cube equal. Radical 3 power 4 is equal to radical 81 if you want to write it like this, times radical 7 cube is equal to radical 7 power 3, يعني 7 times 7 times 7, so it's 343. Okay? طيب هلا I already know that radical 81 is equal to 9 times radical 343. 343 is not a square number. Even if you try in your calculator to press radical 343, it will give you something decimal point. So let me check. Radical 343 give you 18 point something like this. Okay, so we'll not solve it like that. So I think it's a new idea for you, بس بعدين راح تمرق معانا كتير a lot. Radical 7 power 3, if you remember rules of indices اللي أخدتوهم من قبل. Okay, 7 power 3, okay, it is 7 squared times 7. خدنا نحن rules of indices, right? 7 cube هي 7 squared times 7, as x squared times x راح تصير x cube. It's the same here. So radical 81 I'll keep it 9. Radical 7 squared times 7. هلا إذا حدا فهم الدرس كويس آخر سلايد رح يعرف إنه هيدي radical 7 squared times 7. It looks like radical a times b. So it's equal radical a times radical b. So it will be radical 7 squared times radical 7. And at the end, it will be 9 times 7. Radical 7 squared is equal to 7 times radical 7. And I write the final answer here. 7 times 9 is 63. So 63 radical 7. Or times radical 7, which is 63 radical 7. This is the final answer. I know that the last one somehow يعني هيك بدها شوي شغل, but later on راح تتعودوا على يعني على calculations like this, and in the next part of the lesson, okay, in the next part of the lesson راح ناخد some things like this, how to simplify and simplify, لأنه هودي base for grade 9 يعني هودي كتير مهمين for the next year in grade 9. Yeah, thank you and see you next time. Bye bye.